All right, everyone. Welcome to the January 16th session of the Southern Fried DNN User Group meeting. Glad to have everyone here tonight, both online, have some great folks to hang out with while we talk about DNN topics and events coming up. But also welcome to everyone who's watching this on replay after the fact and through the week. We find often that we hang out with some wonderful folks in person and enjoy that camaraderie and conversation, but it continues with everyone who watches online after we post these on the Southern Fried YouTube channel and on the southernfried.com website. And so we're glad to have everybody joining us one way or another. Tonight, David Poindexter won't be able to join us, so I'm running the sessions and information kind of solo. So for those here online with me, please feel free to both jump in and mention or suggest anything that I've forgotten or overlooked, and then we'll run through, and we might even end just a little bit early if we don't have more engaging conversation to stretch out with. We'll make sure it's a good conversation. All right, without further ado, I'm going to dive into some of the important community events and information that has come out within the last month since our last meeting. It's an odd time of year. It feels like it was just yesterday that was Christmas, and it also feels like it was 4 months ago at the same time. But our last meeting was the Southern Fried holiday end of the year meeting where we played DNN Jeopardy. And so we talked a little bit about the announcements and things that had come out since then. We'll talk a little bit in a few minutes about DNN Summit, because obviously the conference is coming up in just a few days. So we want to talk about the things you can do there and some of the things you can do in Vegas. But again, that last meeting was the year-end holiday meeting. And I did want to start off by mentioning that at the end of that meeting, I read a dramatic reading of "'Twas the Last So Fried Before Christmas," and I've done that a couple of times in a row. So I posted an article to the DNN community website and wanted to mention a couple of things about it. Number one, I ended up finding the original holiday songs and things that were written back in 2006. 2004 by folks on the old ASP.NET Forums website. So I found those items, was able to link back to them. They're a lot of fun. It's funny how many things are still the same, but same story, just a different year. But then we also had some people add in new holiday songs. David Poindexter brought in "Deck the Portals." So it's a fun rendition. So I encourage you, if you don't read it this year, go ahead and read it back next year for the holidays. We'll talk DNN Summit in just a few minutes, but with David not here, we'll mention with pride and excitement that he did release a new version of NV QuickSight. I've seen a lot of promotion go up on that online and in Twitter and social locations. There's been a lot of conversation about some of the things that he added in there. We'll have him do a deep dive in one of the next Southern Frieds, but for everyone who uses NV QuickSight, because there are a lot of different ways that you can use NV QuickSight or benefits you can get from it, we'll have him talk in one of the next sessions to give us a deep dive of some of the new features and things that are in there. Kind of to the group that's here online, though, Jeremy, do you use NV QuickSight for propping up things quickly and doing quick tests?
Almost daily, at least a couple times a week. Whether it's development, whether it's testing upgrades, whether it's going back a version, it's so ridiculously useful. And now that they've, in the last year, added that existing sites and the ability to delete sites all the way through and properly now, you can, it's fantastic. I mean, at any given moment, I have all different combinations of different versions of DNN and 2Sexy on my machine, usually about 8 to 12 at a time. And
awesome.
So useful to jump backwards and forwards between versions to see what changed. And
Yeah.
I don't know, for at least the type of stuff I do, very exciting and saves me ridiculous amounts of time.
Well, then maybe in that presentation, we'll have you do the talking and then David can just nod in the background.
Or nod off.
So one of the other posts that I took interest with this week was a new release for the DNN Security Center. So it's worth mentioning that Danny Vladas, David wrote and posted this article, and people were involved in putting this forward. But Danny Vladas did a lot of work to get this update into this next release, and one of the main things about it is that the DNN Security Center in versions of DNN was showing a larger amount of information than what was pertinent to that specific version you were running. And for those of us in the DNN ecosystem who were working in and out of DNN all the time, it made sense to us. We didn't really question it. We just looked at it, and that was what it was. But I have had people who are not DNN integrators or developers, more like end clients who might be administrators or host users, but they're not really living inside of DNN. And they've asked me, well, I see these vulnerabilities that are showing up in the DNN Security Center. And I say, well, that's for an older version. You're at this version, you're safe. I have to explain that. And the new version of the Security Center makes it very clear now. And I can really appreciate the difference that brings. Because basically the version that you are running, it will show that version, and then it can proudly say, if you're at the top version, there are no known security vulnerabilities for this selected version. So it makes it much more visually simple and evident, especially for people who don't, again, live in DNN every day. So shout out and thank yous to Danny Vladas and for David for posting this, and I'm sure we can talk about it more next time around. Before I leave the DNN community website, Dustin, Jim, Jeremy, anything else that you've heard of in the community, or that you think I need to stop off on before I head over to DNN Summit?
If you want, I could talk for 2 to 5 minutes about the latest Too Sexy releases. If you don't have that on your list,
on seeing a lot of those updates come in the DNN community website, and it's been since I think November the last time I saw an update from Too Sexy in the community. Sure thing. What page should I head to so that we can show a visual on the screen?
Here, I've pasted them both in the chat. Do those in that order, and I'll talk you through it real quick.
Let's do it.
So the first one's their blog post on the release of V19. And the key thing here is they finished a long in the background thing where they were redoing the pickers, what you see when you do like drop downs or other things in the editors. So like you can pick other entities, you could enter a range of numbers. And if you scroll down a little, you'll see some photos that'll show things pretty well. Click the 5th photo. Back one. I think I got the wrong one. Yeah, so basically now you have the ability to do checkboxes, radio buttons, mutually exclusive. I believe there's even an option, I haven't done this myself yet, where you can put them in groups. Actually, go to the right 2 pictures.
I can appreciate the tree structure.
Yeah. And go one more. There we go. Grouped. So this allows you to not only have these options on screen for filling stuff in like you'd expect to if you were building database stuff all the time, but now these options can also be data, whereas they couldn't before. Now you can wire them up through queries. There were ways to do that, but it was not this easy. It's now amazing. So
I can
Daniel
also
often uses the word magic, and this is a good version of magic.
I can also appreciate from a designer standpoint, where they want to have graphics along with checkboxes or list items like this, that it's built in instead of something you have to do extra, that you can have images.
Just another option. Very nice. As you're selecting the entities, you can do that too.
Very, very
But
neat.
they've also made these pickers, this part of the UI, a lot more solid and a lot more flexible. It's all front end stuff written in Angular, but they've overhauled a decent portion of it. So I haven't looked at the GPS field improvements, but It's nice that they can pay attention to that and keep working on it. It's very useful for anyone doing map stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this double encryption thing I think is phenomenal. For anyone who cares about, yeah, just scroll down a little bit.
Yeah, I don't understand what it is. I think I'm out of the
So
loop.
one of the things that has come up over time is that as you do postbacks and do things with forms, as stuff's moving from your browser to the server, there's quite a few situations where someone could snoop your traffic and see what's going on. So now we have a much earlier encryption of what's getting posted and decrypted. And it
Hmm.
even works. Notice it says CDN snooping.
Yeah,
So even if you have a CDN in between the browser and the real server, like Cloudflare,
right.
that stuff that's sitting up there is encrypted. So if anyone's snooping it, they can't see the form you
Sources and
posted. They can't
yeah,
see your ticket thing. So anyhow, um,
interesting.
fringe type high security stuff, you'd have to really be doing something where that matters. But the fact that it's just doing it automatically all the time now is excellent.
So that was all of a post at the very end of the year.
Yeah. And then just this morning, they posted a 19.1 update. And this one was again a lot of back end stuff. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, this stuff. A lot of back end stuff, but for me as a programmer, they're adding a lot more stuff into what's called the strongly typed realm.
Right.
So now you've got an iFile model, an iUser model, the pages thing, which David Poindexter was instrumental in getting Daniel to make better last year, now can come back as strongly typed data. So all those fields, you don't have to do string and then the field name in quotes anymore to get a string. You now can just use the field name. So anyhow, there's a lot of nice
Yeah.
stuff happening under the hood. And they also updated it, so it's working on the very latest version of Octane. So
Mm.
as you can see,
Um,
tell by the way I sound, I'm pretty excited about these very latest releases. And they're also, as far as I understand it, we should see a proper LTS in the next version or two. So maybe 19.2 or something.
yeah, there was a mention about that in that blog
Yeah,
post you mentioned.
I'm
So
almost sure. Seems like they'll hit it by the end of the month in
we
time
will
for the
post that
summit.
into the recap for this meeting. So if anybody wants to follow back a line behind, you can kind of read these and catch back up.
I realize that was probably closer to 10 minutes, but for me, it
No,
felt
that's
like two
fantastic.
minutes.
Much appreciated, Jeremy. That was
All right.
awesome. Well, probably perfect timing moving into some of the next things that I wanted to talk about from the DNN community perspective. We've had a few more folks join us here online, so I'll say hello to Marco. Mark has also joined in. Mark Buelsing and Mitch Sellers are on, and we're getting ready to talk DNN Summit. So those two are on the board for the DNN Association, and we're getting ready to talk all things DNN Summit for just a few minutes. So I will make a spot where Mark and Mitch can also chime in for anything that they want to add in. Let's start off by just reminding everyone that the event is coming up in just a few weeks. The DNN Summit this year is both online and in person, so it is not too late to buy your tickets and get your hotel rooms and go ahead and come visit us in Las Vegas. It's going to be a good 2 or 3 days for the conference. And then depending on how you book it, you have some time in the week. You can maybe spend a little time in Vegas and have some fun with yourself or your crew coming out to Vegas. We will be having some things that start up on Sunday evening for the very beginning of the conference, including a speaker sponsor get together and some food being had for that. I'll back up just a touch because I did mention rooms. That if you do decide you want to come in person, it's not too late at this point. But the room block does close, I believe, today. And Mitch, you can chime in if I'm wrong on that.
Yes, the room block does end tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Anybody that wants to come, you can still book if you stay at the hotel. and use your same name, we do still get credit for it, but it'd be awesome for anybody that wants to come to register with the hotel before tomorrow. It would make my life a little better. So greatly appreciated.
All right. Well, so those, those accommodations are available, and we'd love to see you in Vegas, but it is a hybrid event this year, so it is also online. We will be having a DNN Summit running online in the Hopin platform. I'll mention that Hopin has been purchased and has a name change, so it's the same platform, the same software that we've been accustomed to using pretty much since the last time we were in person together was in Orlando 2020. We were having the last DNN Summit right at that cusp, February 2020, right before the world realized there was a pandemic occurring. So it was kind of a weird, magical time period to all get together. But that's the last time we've been together in person. Since then, we have continued to have the DNN Summit online, and it's been in the Hopin platform, and it has been very successful in bringing together speakers and presenters for content information and people listening and participating online. One of the benefits of that online platform is all of the sessions are recorded, and you have access to watch all those sessions throughout the rest of 1 year after the event. So at this point, I encourage everyone as well to purchase tickets and register online for the online portion. If you cannot make it out to Vegas, join online in the Ring Central platform. And even if you can't attend, if during the 3rd and the 4th, Monday and Tuesday, you have work and you're not able to be there the whole time, be assured that you're also going to have a recorded version of those sessions that you can watch and play back. That's one of the things that makes me kind of relax and enjoy the event when I'm there, because I don't have that fear of missing out. I don't think, oh, I'm in this session, but I also really want to watch that session over there. I've enjoyed being able to go back and watch those past sessions, for the course of a year. For anyone who attended 2024 DNN Summit, which was this past February online, be aware your year is about to end, so you won't be able to watch last year's sessions very soon. So as a reminder that tickets and things are available on the website. If you go to dnnsummit.com, you can hit register and choose the type of ticket that you're going to have. It is the 3rd and 4th of February, coming up in just a few days. Before I go over to some of the venue things that I want to talk about and events and things to do in Vegas, Mark or Mitch, do you want to talk about anything else for the event at this point?
I mean, all I have, and you don't know this, so I'll admit it now. It looks like the Las Vegas Visitor and Convention Bureau is going to be giving us some discount links for all kinds of places throughout Vegas that'll be available for any attendee as well. I will be sending some information out about that to all registered in-person attendees here over the course of the next 24 hours or so. It's something brand new to me, but it looks like show tickets, dinner discounts all across Vegas. Something that's going to be available for attendees. More information to be had as soon as I get the rest of that from the Visitor and Convention Bureau. They literally emailed me this afternoon about it. So little bit of a new thing. And anybody that is traveling or coming in for the event, I will be in Vegas starting Friday afternoon. I'm there all of the time, so if you have questions about things to do outside beforehand, don't ever hesitate to reach out to me. Give you all kinds of ideas. So that's all I've got.
That's fantastic, Mitch. It broke up just a touch, so I'll kind of reiterate there that several of us will be arriving into town early. I know that there are plenty of people coming in Saturday in the afternoon. Myself and my team will be coming in Saturday evening. So do look around for the DNN folks when you get into the location. That's one of the joys of attending a DNN Summit event in person is spending time in the lounge downstairs or at one of the restaurants or bars and hanging out with all your DNN friends, talking about problems and issues and things you fixed and things you made something awesome out of DNN. It's a lot of camaraderie and a lot of fun. For those who haven't been to a DNN event in the States, it's also a lot about business networking and getting to know other people in the ecosystem. So it's a lot of fun, and that starts the minute we all hit that hotel. I did want to take a moment or two to talk about some of the sessions that are coming up. We have 4 different tracks. We will have 2 or 3 concurrent sessions going on throughout the days. Many of these speakers are people that you've seen within the DNN community, and they are speaking to their strengths. They're teaching from the things they know. We'll see Aaron Lopez out there talking to us about Tailwind and doing a couple of different sessions that are Tailwind focused from a designer and a utilization perspective. There's some neat things coming there. I'll mention, people who have big ideas in DNN, and maybe they have bigger personalities that are even bigger than that. The DNN diva, Alessandra Daniels, or Davies, now Daniels. She's got a giant personality, and she's going to be in there with TK Shepard from Envisionative, and they're going to be doing a creativity versus code, a developer and designer's duel. Any duel that involves the DNN diva, I'd like to be in the room. That's going to be entertainment. So we've got some very interesting things. Here I'm kind of looking at the design track. We do have things that are in the marketing side of things. Very often we'll find folks from 10 Pound Gorilla joining us to give us perspective from an advertising and a marketing content messaging perspective. So we have, Dustin Peterson, we have Mark Saunders presenting some things that are in the design, in the marketing side of things. And we really appreciate the 10 Pound Gorilla sponsors and also their participation in DNN Summit all of these years, but of course this year as well. Marco Alverdo is going to be presenting, and I think this is his first time both attending a DNN Summit in person, but also presenting at DNN Summit. And Marco, you're online with us tonight. I don't know if you want to come off a microphone, but you're going to talk about mastering Google Ads. And I feel like that'll tie off with some of the SoFri presentations you made back in 2024. You want to give a shout out to your session?
Yes, definitely. Well, myself, I'm pretty excited. I just pretty much want to be there already so we can start chatting and going to sessions, having a couple of drinks and, having fun with everybody there. I'm really looking forward. It's my first time going. I did try to go the last time. It was going to be in Las Vegas. I did actually went.
That's right, you did. You and Will Stroll and maybe a handful of other people all went. Yes, that's right.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm looking forward now about the 2 sessions. I'm definitely have a lot of content to share about Google Ads. We are a Google Partner Premier here in Costa Rica, so we have a lot of knowledge and tips and hints to get the best out of this platform. And the other session, it's about how to create or how we create context for a new project once we start it. Because usually what happens is that the client wants to get the website fast, but we need high quality content from them because they're the experts about their products and services. So we do have a couple of tricks using AI, and we're going to talk about AIOs and a couple of interesting things about search and artificial intelligence, so we can get everybody up to speed and take the best out of this new wave that is coming in.
I think that we'll be taking notes. That's a fantastic presentation. You don't have to be a DNN developer to appreciate all of the tracks that we have. We have some of the tracks that are more introduction level DNN or general level DNN. We of course have Mitch, who's going to be presenting about DNN 10 and beyond, and talking about future of DNN related things. We have several folks who are giving other things like a beginner's guide to DNN. Paul Gilbert's going to be doing that. In the evening, I'll be running a DNN Jeopardy. So if you've participated in one of those before, I can tell you they're even more fun when you're in person. So we'll be having one of those. We will have some prizes for that DNN Jeopardy. We'll talk about that in just a moment. But we've got a few more things that are kind of in the introduction before we then look at some of the more complicated or detail level sessions, such as a session that is all about SQL and PowerShell from Dale Warner. This is the kind of detail dive that Dustin Moore on my team has always been eager for. Anything where we're talking about the DNN database, he is all on. So this is good to see. We've got some machine learning things, other AI sessions, and then towards the end of this list here, have a few more things from David Poindexter and the Envisionative team. And then I'll be doing a session on evoke downgrades or side grades, as I call them, community edition upgrades and upgrade scenarios, what to do when it gets stuck or broken, getting into some technical details and suggestions about those kinds of things. David, I do want to point out, is also going to be doing an introduction session that is a getting started with DNN module development session. And this is the kind of session that I enjoy seeing, because I know so many people are still starting from the older ChrisTalk tutorials, or the updated version of those ChrisTalk tutorials that Clint Patterson helped review and create a few years back. And so just continuing to talk about module development and getting set up, and having a kind of a beginner session to help you get your feet wet and get the tools in front of you and see how people like, David, who are prolific in the environment, the kind of tools they like and the way they like to set them up. Even if you're someone who's experienced, you can watch someone else and pick up a few tips and tricks. And that's what DNN Summit's all about. Okay, so I'm heading away from sessions, but I'll give it just a second to the group who's online at the moment. Anyone else want to mention anything about sessions or things you're looking forward to in those events? All right. Otherwise, I'll move on and mention that we have our DNN Summit Awards. A couple of things. Let me jump back to Jeopardy. Whenever people play Jeopardy with me, I kind of twist some arms and get them to play either DNN Jeopardy or DNN Family Feud, DNN $10,000 Pyramid. The winner for those has often been promised a deck of DNN themed playing cards. I have about 12 of those, and I've been holding on to them since 2020, and I think, I'll send them out next month, 1 month. Then I've moved houses, and I don't know where the box is. Alessandra, when she's watching this back on playback, she's owed a deck, and she tells me every time I talk to her. I'm bringing those. Everyone who's going to DNN Summit in person, you're coming. I've got your decks. Jeremy, I'm looking at you. I got a deck with your name on the top of it.
I had this feeling I sort of remembered that I won one somewhere along the way.
Got it right on there. But I'm producing a new set. So as long as the shipping comes through, we have a new set that's coming. And this one's even nicer than my previous sets, because while they have a DNN themed pattern in the background, this printing allowed us to do custom royalty on the cards. So we have standard faces for the number sets, but then the jack is the DNN Summit logo for 2025 DNN Summit in Vegas. So they're commemorative of 2025. The queen is, of course, Southern Fried DNN, because we used to be Queen City DNN User Group. So it used to be QC Doug. So Southern Fried is the queen. But the king, of course, is DNN. So we have the DNN logo on the king. Just for some visual variety, they have some color tinting that's able to be done for them. So we've essentially got red, green, and blue tinting, and then full color. But we're having fun with the jack this time, so that we have kind of a really nice presentation for, I said jack, but I meant joker. As tradition is, for the last several DNN summits, whenever we need to do something for the DNN Yeti, I have turned to ChatGPT and to DALL-E. to say, give me some drawings of a blue furred Yeti enjoying himself with a beach ball and sunglasses because he's in Orlando. So I get 17 pictures. They're really good. I hone in on the right ones, revise and work with it, and it creates a fun piece of art that we use to promote, like we did a lot in actually DNN Summit 2023 and 2024. Well, this year I went right back into that thread and I said, ChatGPT, just like you did some of those Yetis in the past, I now need the Yeti to go on the Joker face of a playing card. And with very minimal prompting, it kicked out something that's a lot of fun and is on target with being themed like a Joker is, or like elements in a deck, because it has things flipped in half. It has some variation to things, and also the DNN Yeti is spot on with his sunglasses and his smile. So I was very pleased at what little minimal effort it was, and any of the weird little artifacts and things of AI art, I find fun and fascinating because I'm always impressed by what it can do and what it can't do very well. So this is a fun mixture of that. I had to minimally work inside of this design to ask it to put a coin in his hand so that I could put one of our DNN travel awards as a graphic on top of that. I then added DNN logos and DNN elements in different directions, including the DNN Summit logo and the SoFri logo. So the people who win this deck or two of cards that we have are going to have a pretty nice keepsake from DNN Summit 2025 to share and brag about in the future. So I'm very proud of bringing some fun to the event and doing these things that we can only really do in person. So looking forward to that. One of the other things that we are doing more creative is sponsoring and putting together the DNN Summit Awards. It's something that we started in 2017 at DNN Summit, and we created the Travel Award. So DNN Summit 2016 was the first one in Denver. And I was thinking about the Olympics and how people get these big gold awards, and there's kind of an awards ceremony. And I was just thinking about what we could do for DNN, and I thought, we need an awards ceremony. So I created this concept for the DNN Summit Awards. And in 2017, we had the very first one with the Travel Award. We had two awards, one for the people who were geographically the farthest away traveling to the event. And the other one, the second, was for the longest amount of travel in hours to get there. And we've had people from Australia and the Czech Republic have, be contenders for winning those awards. And we've had fun, producing those every year that we were in person all the way up through 2020. Well, we haven't had a DNN Summit in person. So we have, again, now prepared those. There are 5 different awards these days, and we did build up to that all the way through 2020. So there's a travel award for longest distance. That's 2 of those. There's DNN Classic, which is the oldest version of running DNN. So we kind of have a questionnaire. When you're checking into the DNN Summit event, you take a sheet and you fill that out, and you get that back to us, and we check it out over the next day or two, and we then find our contenders and our winners, and we present them at the closing session at the end of the DNN Summit on Tuesday. So DNN Classic is the oldest running instance of DNN. Chris Talk, which I know his name isn't Chris Talk, Chris Hammond, but his handle is Chris Talk, so that's the way I think of him. Chris Talk won one year because he was running a DNN 3 instance, and he brought it back online to show us this DNN 3 instance. And he's like, "Oh, well, I turned it off ages ago." I'm like, "I discontinued from that," but the point of that is then you get all the help from everyone there at DNN Summit to tell you how you can upgrade that instance as fast as possible, because that's a security issue that we would want you to resolve as soon as possible. So that's DNN Classic. And then next after that is DNN Portals, the most number of DNN portals in a DNN instance. And while we have had some colleagues and some clients of ours have thousands of portals, 1,000 to 2,000 portals in a DNN instance was common at one point in time. We thought that was an astounding big number until we started having this award. Regularly, we will run across someone with 12,000 portals, 20,000 portals, but the biggest count was both the winner of the most users in a DNN instance and the most portals in a DNN instance, because they were an e-commerce store system. And when you created a user account, it created a portal for you, and that was your store. And they had 200,000 portals and stores and users inside of this DNN instance. And that certainly took the cake. I don't know that we'll get something that big again, but it's always astounding to see the max numbers that people have out there in the wild and see what they're doing with it. So that's the point of the DNN Summit Awards, is to see what people are doing with DNN and kind of have a celebration of that while we're there at the DNN Summit event. So we'll have some DNN awards that we are presenting and we'll be talking about at the event. Now, one of the things that we have is that we're going to be in Vegas. So let's spend just a minute or two talking about the things that you might like to get up to, activities, entertainment, locations, art museums, shows. There's so much stuff that obviously you can do in Vegas. And it's funny, I'm one to talk. I've never been to Vegas. I've not been in person to Vegas. And so I'm spending time right now researching, what can we do? What shows are on? Where can we go? How far is that away? Can we get there in an Uber? I don't know. So I'll just mention a few highlights, and I'll encourage the group here online tonight. If any of you have been to Vegas and you have some suggestions on where you think we should go, I'll bring it up and we'll mention it to the group. But let's run through some things that I've pulled up and done some research with. Thanking both the Cosmopolitan website and the Las Vegas tourism websites, but also handy ChatGPT. You say, we are a bunch of geeks coming to a conference in Las Vegas. Where do you think we should go? And it gave some great suggestions. So let's dive into those. First off, we are at the Cosmopolitan. The Cosmopolitan itself is a very interesting hotel. I understand that all of the individual hotels have some attraction within them and things to see. And there are a lot of interesting things at the Cosmopolitan itself. So for instance, there's a lot of art throughout the location of the Cosmopolitan complex. So they have hundreds of artwork items kind of displayed through different areas, but they also have some galleries, both physical artwork galleries and digital artwork galleries. So I think that late nights after the conference, when things have kind of turned down, you might find me wandering around trying to catch a view of some of the artwork and the items that are here inside of the Cosmopolitan's complex. You will find, if you go looking for them, artomats. These are converted cigarette machines. And I'm doing this because I know what a cigarette machine looks like and how you pull on it. But anybody under the age of, I don't know, I guess me, barely has any idea because they would have never seen a cigarette machine before. But they took them out and kind of converted them into tiny little tchotchke vending machines. So artists, hundreds of artists have created tiny little pieces of artwork, and it might be stickers or little sculptures or keychains or who knows what. It's a variety of wild, interesting, crazy things. And I've seen a couple of these before in Asheville, North Carolina, and a couple of other places where art is. And there's always a story and it's always something interesting. And if you say, hey, I got this one really weird keepsake when I went to Vegas, it might come out of one of these machines. So the Artomat, they say that there are 90 of these machines that are around in that area. And I don't know if that means everywhere or in their hotel, but basically it's something to look out for, and you'll certainly find me taking a look for it. Now, one of the other things to talk about is, just entertainment in the area. We will be there roughly from February the 2nd through February the 6th. I have taken a look for any shows that are on, any entertainers or performers. And as far as traveling shows, we're finding that we're landing in Vegas right before Valentine's Day. And that means they are changing shows. The weekend that we're there, they're in the middle of moving or changing shows because more things start up after we leave that are on while we're there, especially in the beginning of the week. But I will mention that on the Cosmopolitan website, you can go looking for and finding things that are in the area and shows. I'll kind of mention more about shows in just a minute, but let's jump to attractions. The Sphere is the giant eyeball. It's the giant, very unusual thematic item that you've seen in some pictures where they will have different graphics projecting or displayed on the outside of this thing at different points in time. So the Sphere is an attraction in itself. They do not have any rock bands or musicians that are going to be having any shows the nights that we are there. However, there's a tour on the inside, and that tour has kind of IMAX style presentations and videos, but it's IMAX on steroids. It's the biggest that's there and it's possible. So I know that I'm going to want to go with my team and check out the Sphere. So we might be doing that late night on Monday or Tuesday, but we're also personally blocking out Wednesday so we can go around and go to places. So we'll be teaming up with folks and seeing who we can take with us to get around in Vegas and see places like the Sphere. Another one that's on my list that I was aware of that I'd like to go see personally is a thing called Omega Mart. And the best thing I can describe for you is that this is a surreal art exhibit, a surreal interactive art exhibit. You might go and think that this is kind of for teens or for younger folks. It's going to have a lot of visuals and a lot of visual distortion things and interactive play areas or scenarios. You could go there and spend 30 or 40 minutes. You can go there and spend 3 hours. It's a very odd, interesting place. So Omega Mart is one place that I know I definitely want to see. There are a few other things that are similar to that. There's the Museum of Illusions, and it is a place where you go to walk through and experience different kinds of things. So there are mirror halls, there are distortion rooms, there are things that play with your senses. A lot of fun interactive things that you can experience in the Museum of Illusions. Hello, come on. I think the Museum of Illusions froze my browser. Is the screen share still showing? Yeah, it is. Oh, snap. Well, I do have bookmarks for all of these, so I'll come right back into it. No problem. We will skip the Museum of Illusions and we'll go right over to Area 15. Area 15 is kind of like Dave & Buster's on steroids. You can spend 3 or 4 hours at Area 15. It's one that is connected to the Omega Mart. There are clubs, there are video game rooms, there are interactive, immersive rooms. There's all kinds of things at Area 15. So if you want to be active and kind of spend an evening or a few hours, then Area 15 is a very interesting thing to consider heading out to. Esports, there is a giant area for participating in and challenging each other in esports. So this thing is called the Hyper Arena in Vegas. I'm not the person for this, but it was highly recommended by ChatGPT, who said it's a lot of fun. Let's talk about some other attractions. Obviously, heading up and down the strip, we will be in Vegas, and every hotel, every casino, every location has a theme and an attraction. And one of those that I've known about for years and has seemed like a thing that I enjoy doing is at the New York location on the Strip. There is the Big Apple roller coaster, and that is the roller coaster that's on top of the building and goes out and away from the building and back in again. And if you want to see the sights very quickly at the top of a building, then I might encourage you to go try out that Big Apple roller coaster. Just to also mention the traditional shows that are out there, I've mentioned the Sphere already, but we've got magicians like David Copperfield having some availability for events in the beginning to the middle of the week. We have at least 2 or 3 different types of Cirque du Soleil that are out there. We have, King Arthur type court things. We've got magicians, that Chris Angel Mind Freak. If you're still there on Wednesday and Thursday, then he has some shows. So you're able to find, all kinds of shows that are out there. As far as music is concerned, Janet Jackson does have either a residency or a long stretch of time. And Wednesday, there will be a show for Janet Jackson, so you can go see Janet. Shania Twain is also doing something, so that in the beginning of the week, I think Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Shania Twain is there. So if you haven't seen her in concert, that might be good. Mariah Carey is also in concert. So she is there, though. Let's see, the 1st, the 5th, the 7th. Oh, the 3rd as well. So there are a couple of different days there that you're able to catch Mariah Carey. Blake Shelton is also there, and we'll be having some dates. Let's see, February the 5th, a couple of different shows, February the 5th. So just a few acts that if you wanted to try and catch musicians, there are a few out there. Let's close that group. And then I'll kind of check in with the rest of the folks online. Anybody who's been to Vegas before and want to make a suggestion for places that you think people should go?
I'll replug one. Just between 1990 and 2001, I went 19 or 20 times to Vegas for trade shows because of the business I was in at the time. And
Wow.
no matter what I did all the different things every single time, but always kept going back to Cirque du Soleil. And I've seen at least 6 of them, the different ones, including one of the ones in Florida, a couple of the traveling ones, but the best has always been the original Mystere. Best
Okay.
music, best performances, funniest. I always recommend that. If you don't like it, too bad, I do.
Well, I was going to say I've seen one traveling one, and I was going to ask if the on location ones in the original are even more impressive or more entertaining.
It's very much my kind of thing. All of them have been fantastic, whether it was Verikai traveling. I've never been disappointed by them. They're always stunning and amazing and impressive. It's a very hyper unreal version of a circus with a lot of theatrics and comedy and theater and everything.
Yeah.
And usually, always, I have quite a few of the CDs still that I bought them all years ago. The music's fantastic and I still listen to it.
All right. Good plug. Good plug.
Thanks.
I think you can easily talk me into going to see a show with you.
Okay, Beatles Love. That's the one I want to do.
Okay. All right. We can get behind that music. Mark, want to check back with you. Is there anything from DNN Summit that you want to mention? Anything that we missed covering before I head on to a little bit of DNN topic for the evening?
No, Ryan, I can't add anything. You've done an excellent job of covering everything there is. Count me in on some of those excursions you're talking about. Sounds good.
Absolutely. You better believe it. All right.
Asking.
Well, then let's switch gears and let's talk a little bit about DNN tips and tricks. That's one of the reasons why we assemble together for things like the Southern Fried DNN User Group every month. I know that the format that we normally have is that we have speakers present for a topic of the evening, and that's, what we'll likely continue doing. But we've talked often about the idea of having people in to just give a little nugget, a little thing that is interesting that maybe not everyone knows about, or maybe you've spent some time digging into something and you'd like to share it with people, because I guarantee you there are so many different corners of usage of DNN or features of elements in DNN that maybe not everyone has taken the time to appreciate what they can do or work with them. And I've squirreled away a couple of notes for those. So through the year 2025, as we reach times where we may not have a speaker for that month, or we're trying to figure out what to do to fill the gap for 10 or 15 minutes, I have a few of these that I'm going to sprinkle out, but I'd like to go ahead and put in the request now to those who join us regularly online and anyone who's watching after the fact. Send us your ideas and your information. Come present with us and show your favorite little corner of DNN and things that you can do with it. Here tonight, this is one that I noted a while back, and I'm going to call this section, I didn't know you could do that with DNN. Because that's what I literally said the very first time that I paid closer attention to what the DNN image handler could do as of DNN 8. We had an article at the time of DNN 8's release talking about how the image handler had been changed and updated and the different things that it could do. And it's one of those things that it went into place. We knew it was possible for you presenting images and graphics maybe that were locked or secured by permissions. And it was responsible for, the way that you displayed the DNN user profile image. And if there's no user profile for that person, it displays a head with a question mark. And if there is a picture, then it shows their profile picture. And that's all I thought of it. Within our own projects, within more creative development work for client projects, we will often install our own image processor or image handler. And while it can do so many more different things, I was surprised to see how many different things the core DNN image handler could do. And there are times when we just need a few different features of an image handler. And maybe if we don't need our other one, there's no need to install another tool if it's already here inside of DNN. There are plenty of times that you build something within Xmod Pro or within Forms and Lists or within Too Sexy, and you need to display images and maybe display them at different sizes. Same original image, now displayed at different sizes without having to upload a different version. This image handler can do resizing on the fly. So what I'm going to do is just spend just a couple of minutes showing examples of things that you can find out about in the DNN docs location, docs.dnncommunity.org. And what I'm showing you is nothing new. This isn't from DNN version 9.10. This isn't from DNN version 9.2. This isn't from DNN version 9. This is from DNN version 8, long, long ago. But it's got some neat corners of things that I'm not sure everybody's aware of. So here we go. We're going to talk about this. I'll share these links in the post on the SoFri website when we're done with this. But let's talk about a couple of things that it can do. First off, let's talk about the main things that it can do with the profile picture and the fact that you can display a profile picture with a user ID. So as long as you have that user ID, then you are able to display, there we go. You're able to display the profile picture for that user. So if you have a user that has uploaded a picture, then user ID 1 will get you that particular user's picture. If there's no picture uploaded, then obviously it'll show or maybe not obviously, but what it does do is show you the head with the question mark in it. Well, you can also use that same handler to display images by image path within your website. So you don't have to use it just for something like the profile picture, because here you'll notice that as a mode profile pitch in the URL query string. But we can also have it display an image from within your portals as long as you have the file path for it. So you can say mode file. So it's going to go look for that file, and it can display that file based on the route path down to your site. Now, of course, I can display this image without the image handler involved, and I could directly display this image. But once we're running it through the ASP.NET image handler of DNN called DNN-ImageHandler.ashx, then we have the ability to do any of the features and controls that are provided to us by the DNN image handler. So, for example, one thing we can do is, before I get to it, with the Will Riker picture here, we're calling that image by the folder path for that particular image. With this screenshot of a client of ours from 2012, we're calling this by the file ID. So here in this location, we don't have to know the folder path of it. We're using the fact that this is in the DNN folder file structure. It is a database record in the files table, and this is file ID 1423. So we're able to call it one way or the other way, either by path or by ID. And in different circumstances, you might have access to one or the other very easily. But once you are calling an image through the DNN image handler, then you have the ability to do things like resize and crop that image. So if I want to say that this image 1423, I'll kind of remove this for a second and reload it just so we get the full image. And actually it's larger. Resizing is obviously done by the browser, fitting it in one screen. But if I come in and add additional query strings into this, I'm going to remove the resize for just a minute. And I'm just going to say that this is going to be width. And let's go ahead and say that I want this to be width 200 and height 100. Then it's going to resize that image and display it dynamically. And for anyone who's not understanding how that works, there's a small cache involved, and it will load that image instantly. The very first time that you call it, it'll take a microsecond to generate that new smaller size, because the ASP.NET image resizer is dynamically creating a new cached instance of this image. So the first time it takes a fraction of a second. Every time after that, it's already existing within reason that you can clear those caches. But anyways, so it's very, very, very fast. And you can have one original version of a picture as large as you want it to be. And you can say, oh, well, actually, I need to be able to load this at 200 by 150. Okay, you just change the code. You're not having to resize or resave pictures. Well, the default mode for the DNN image resizer is to fit to screen or fit to window area that you were describing. So if I said that I wanted this to be 2000 wide by 150 tall, it's not going to distort the image because of the format that I'm running right here. But if I change this a little bit and I put back in resize mode is crop, and here I'm going to do width of 900 and height of 300, then I can crop into the middle of that picture. So you can choose what you're doing. You can also do some anchoring to tell it to crop in to one size or another. You can also choose fit. Fit is going to do its best job to fit it inside of there. So there are a few different variations of what you can do. But the main thing to point out here is that that width and that height is a dynamic display, and the DNN image handler can do dynamic resizing for you. And again, it's built into DNN. It's in every DNN instance 8 and above. So you can use it on any of your development projects that you're working on displaying images. Some of the news article modules, there are a few modules out there that use this handler to display all of their images because it's a resource that's already there in DNN. That said, there are plenty of modules that will bring in also other ASP.NET image resizers, and I'll mention a couple of things about those in just a second. But back to that original page that I started on, with those different examples of the way that you can do those resize, you've got crop mode, fill mode, fit mode, and fit square. So there's some different varieties of things you can play with. So it's definitely not a simple tool. You've got a lot of features that you can do with it. I'll back up to a couple of other examples that I want to show. And this is actually probably what started it for me when I said, I didn't know DNN could do that. I've used placeholder images in other services plenty of times. There's a website service called Placehold that I use very often. And when you use Placehold, you specify a width and a height and the text you want, and boom, it'll create a placeholder image for you. You don't have to go outside of your DNN site to do that. You can do it inside of the DNN image handler. You can use this for placeholder images, filler images when you have something that needs to be input or updated by a management user or content editor. You can also use them for simple banners and graphics that you may want to make with text, like text titles. It can't get fancy and do anything with special fonts, although the more robust image resizers can do that. This one's fairly straightforward. But if you need to make placeholder graphics, this is a way to do it. So here we're calling mode placeholder. And width 400, 200 will automatically put the wording 400 by 200 inside of that particular picture. You can also do a few other things so that you can specify the height and the width, and you can specify text if you want different text on the inside, and you can also specify a background color and a border color. So you can't go crazy with it. It's not robust, but for getting a good job done with a placeholder image, you do not have to install anything special in DNN. This is built in as a feature that's present inside of DNN. One other thing to mention is there are a few other filters or styles of things you can do. Here, this is loading that same image we saw earlier with grayscale equals 1 or true. So we're showing the image in grayscale. So sometimes if you have things where you want to show images black and white and then turn them into color later, you're able to do that through CSS and through browsers as well. But here you can do it in the image resizer image handler, and you can display those images in black and white. Going back to that original, there are a few different filters that are there, and I'll go to some blog articles from quite a long time ago that talk about some of these different features. So for instance, there is the ability to change the color on these. So there's a gamma filter, a brightness filter, a contrast filter, the ability to invert images. I think that a lot of those are harder to find uses for in modern web development, but you can do some of those that are fun and useful. You can flip things if a hard-coded flip is something that's going to be useful to you. So there are some articles out there that talk about this, both in the DNN docs and some blogs. But I will also mention that, again, back when it was brought out in DNN 8, there was a lot of discussion about what it could do, and it has the ability to have some extensions. The BB image handler is what this was kind of built off of by
Torsten Wiggin.
Thank you. I'm looking for his name in here because I was Wiggin. I don't remember Torsten. Let's see.
Yep.
So he
had a lot of DNN modules. He did like BB News, BB Contact, BB Image Handler.
Yeah.
Vanished around the time 8 came out. I haven't heard his name in a long time.
Yeah. Well, that image handler is still available and you can still install it. And it has a few extra extensions that you could add on to the ones that are there. One of them is the ability, I don't recommend it, but the ability to pull images from a database so you can store the images in the database. I personally will mention, Dustin covers his ears. He's a database purist and he's taught me well enough. I personally think images inside of a database is a type of sin or tragic error that must be avoided at all costs. But there's some reasons people need to do it sometimes. So you can have an image coming out of a database record. The one that got me, though, is barcodes. I used to rely on a very simple Google chart, Google AI API to display barcodes, and they discontinued it. It doesn't exist anymore. and I've gone to a few other barcode generation tools, but this is an example of, I didn't know I could do that in DNN. If you install the BB images to DNN, then you could have your image processor spit out barcodes for you. And in that, you generate the height and the width. You put in the type of QR code that you want to generate, and then you can put in the content, whether that is text content or a URL. You can have DNN and the DNN image handler generating barcodes for you. So that's kind of a lot of talking in a row for me there, but I think that's a quick and simple tip that could be a recurring section that I would call, I didn't know DNN could do that. So as I wrap up there, any thoughts or questions? Does anyone have anything you want to add on to that set of things with the internal DNN image handler?
One beneficial thing that I don't think is mentioned in the article you were highlighting, it creates and caches the image. Did we talk about that already or not?
You know,
That's what's
I
really
mentioned it.
important, because that first time processing, especially on bigger images, can really take a good amount of CPU time, and it saves it, caches it, and we'll reuse that in the future for the same URL signature.
Yes. So I didn't mention into that, but we've got a fair amount of experience with that. It does create a folder on the server, and that has in it all of these tiny little thumbnails that end up getting created, and they get cached and linked to. And as long as the file name and the URL path stays the same, it'll always go to that cache. And you can clear that cache. You can do a little bit of spring cleaning sometimes and clear those folders, or clear the biggest of the images in those folders. But you know, even though it has that processor hit the very first time it processes the images, afterwards it is fantastic that it will load instantaneously. Now, if anyone needs to do a deeper dive into image handlers within DNN, the ASP.NET image handler is something we could do a longer session over. We have a lot of experience turning DNN into a digital asset management system, a DAM system, and it's powered through the ASP.NET image processor. Handling all types of different file types like TIFFs and Photoshop PSD files, taking PDFs and rendering the first screen page of the PDF as a thumbnail for the graphic as a PDF, pulling images directly out of AWS and external drive locations. There's all kinds of stuff that can happen with those things. But the name of the game is about one source image, as big as you can have it, and then knowing that you can use it in all the different sizes you need to, exactly sized at the size you need it. All right. Well, that kind of concludes the content that I'd prepared for tonight. We've spent some time talking about the DNN community and some of the news that's out there from David and his contributions to the DNN ecosystem with a new release of NV QuickSight. We talked a little bit about David and Daniel Velada's announcement for the updated DNN Security Center. We then talked a lot about DNN Summit. I'm excited about getting out to Vegas to see everyone, whether you're going to be joining us in person or if you're going to be joining us online. I'm looking forward to seeing everyone, talking to you, and spending a little bit of time really digging into DNN quality time and DNN networking here in that beginning first week of February. So we talked a lot about that. We talked about some of the events and things that you could do for entertainment. And then we did a quick dive into, I didn't know DNN could do that. So I'll pass it around to the folks who were with us in person. Any parting thoughts or things that anyone wants to mention?
I think the anxiety from holding our breath on whether or not we're going to see a release candidate of DNN v10 before the summit is has to be on a few people's minds, but I'm not going to bet either way.
Well, Mitch Sellers dropped off. I'm positive he had family things, business things, and pilot things to run to that pulled him away from the meeting. Otherwise, we might be able to coax him into saying something. I can say that I don't have any inside tracks or news, but I've even gotten wind that we are
I even
very
feel
close.
like I have inside track, and I still wouldn't bet on either direction.
That's the thing, is we're very
I
close
know.
to some interesting announcements, and I
Yeah.
can describe that. When we do our February Southern Fried meeting, which our next meeting will be, our meetings are always the third Thursday of every month. So that third Thursday of February is February the 20th. That'll be 2 weeks after we come back from DNN Summit. And we'll have Summit news to talk about. We'll have crazy stories about the things we all got up to in Vegas, if we decide to tell any of those in person. But I've been told that we might have some other important things to present or to talk about. So we don't want to announce anything for sure, but we also didn't want to say, what that might be. So let's hold our breath, and we might have some very exciting things. But I can guarantee you we'll be talking about it when we're all together at Summit in person or online. Jim, good to see you. Dustin, thanks for joining. Marco, can't wait to see you in a few days. First round of drinks is on me. Mark, we'll see you soon. And thank you everyone for joining us here online tonight for the Southern Fried DNN User Group. And we'll talk to you again soon.
Excellent. Thanks.
Bye, guys.
Thanks all.
See you guys in Vegas.
Thanks, Ryan.
See
Thanks,
everyone
everybody.
at DNN Summit.
See you in 2 weeks.